So he wants to model it after Cairo, you know, the movement where they raped a CBS reporter, Laura Logan, in Tahrir Square. While everyone was calling it peaceful and wonderful and, of course, nonviolent, she was being raped as they chanted Jew, Jew, Jew. It's turned Egypt into an area of chaos now. The people are not more free. What has it turned into? Why? Because people would say, well, they just wanted freedom. This is a freedom movement. No, no, no. That was a Muslim Brotherhood movement. No, no, no. This is a freedom movement. Could you be more specific? What is it that they're asking for? You'll notice they couldn't answer that question, and neither could this movement. They have general themes. Here's what the only revolution that was ever successful and held by the people that actually started the revolution, the American Revolution. Here's what they did. They got together, and they debated and debated and debated, and then they wrote. It's called the Declaration of Independence. That's what they did. They didn't have general themes. They had a Declaration of Independence. Okay, so now this is October 11th. This is David Swanson. Now I want you to see if there's any similarities between the tape you just heard from David Swanson and the October 11th movement and what we played for you last spring. This is exclusive audio from the Blaze. This was gotten for us last spring, given to the Blaze. It was in a conference in New York City. Stephen Lerner, he's on sabbatical from SEIU, and he has a plan himself. Now, in this tape, you'll hear that he was talking about starting it in spring. We pointed it out. I believe we helped thwart it. But we did not extinguish the fire. I'll give you an update on this audio, but see if this audio from Stephen Lerner sounds anything like the audio of David Swanson. Here it is.
It seems to me that we're in a moment where we need to figure out in a much more direct action, much more concrete way, how we really are trying to disrupt and create uncertainty for capital, for how corporations operate. And it may sound like that's a crazy thing, in a moment of weakness we could do it, but the thing about a boom and bust economy is it's actually incredibly fragile because it's not based on real wealth. It's based on gambling and all of that. And so there are actually extraordinary things that we could do right now that would start to destabilize the folks that are in power and start to rebuild their movement. And for example, 10% of homeowners, going back to where you started, who are a quarter of all people who own a home are underwater, right? Their home is worth, they're paying more for it than it's worth. 10% of those people are now in strategic default, meaning they're refusing to pay, but they're staying in their home. That's totally spontaneous, right? They figured out it takes a year to kick me out of my home because more foreclosures backed up. I'm going to stay, I won't pay. It's just what business does. It's a good business decision. If you could double that number, you would put banks on the edge of insolvency again.
So
okay, stop.
A little difficult to hear there, but...
No, I think he was very clear. He said he wants to create uncertainty because the system is incredibly fragile, and if they can just get a few people just to back off on their paying their loans, then they'll be able to put the banks at the brink of insolvency again. Let me translate. This is what the President of the United States keeps referring to as headwinds. Anybody with me on that one?
Sounds crazy, Glenn. I don't believe you.
Yeah, I know. So Stephen Lerner. Now, this one has gone away, but gee, it didn't really go away, did it, Stu?
No, it did not, actually. In fact, there's multiple campaigns. The one you talked about, October 11th, has their list of demands. And the other one is Occupy Wall Street, which is a fantastic program. The one good thing about all this social networking, it's bad in that, like, a lot of these radicals can organize themselves without the old trappings of organization where it was tough to bring people together. It's a lot easier to do that now. But the good thing about it is they have to discuss their tactics, right out in the open. And that's what Occupy Wall Street is. They're talking about a worldwide shift in revolutionary tactics underway right now that bodes well for the future. This is from their website. The spirit is this fresh tactic, a fusion of Tahrir with Spain, is captured in this quote. The anti-globalization movement was the first step on the road. Back then, our model was attack the system like a pack of wolves. There was an alpha male, a wolf who led the pack, and those who followed behind. Now the model has evolved. Today we are one big swarm of people. And you think about if you go back to the day where you had the kind of the crazy anarchist protests where you saw this violence and everything else. They're changing tactics. They're evolving from that, and they say very specifically what they're going to do. They're going to zero in. This is a quote. We zero in on what our one demand will be, a demand that awakens the imagination. And they compare this later on in the article to, we want Mubarak to step down, period. And they said that all the time. They got people on board for that cause. But that's not the end game. We zero in our one demand, which will be a demand that awakens imagination, and, if achieved, will propel us towards the new radical democracy of the future. This is not an end game. When you hear these quotes from some of these people, it's enough to get people on board to get to their vision of the radical democracy of the future.
I warned in Israel and was lambasted for it, and I will warn you. There are wolves in sheep's clothing that will look exactly like you. I said it in the speech from Israel. The shapeshifters. The shapeshifters are here, and they will shift their shape, and they will say anything they have to get you on board. They are organizing the organized. This is what we're talking about are flash mobs. You're seeing this to cause chaos. That is not unrelated. Flash mobs and the things that happen over in England. It's really curious that they use the word swarmed, because that's exactly what I was told by someone that was happening to me. They said, you're just being swarmed, Glenn. You're just being swarmed. You could survive, if you would just play the game. No, thank you. No, thank you. You just have to be aware. Now, there's two other pieces of audio that you need to hear. The anarchists in Wisconsin have a very similar message, except this one is a warning. And these are anarchists. What's really strange is they're communist anarchists, which don't make any sense, because the anarchists mean no government and communist means ultimate government. How does that work exactly? Well, they don't think it through all that much. They're expecting that you don't either. But they have a very clear warning on the streets of Wisconsin. And the Congressional Black Caucus sounds awfully darn familiar. They're claiming it's war now, and they're taking it to the streets. Then a solution.